Good morning, members. Welcome to the K-12 Finance Committee. Remote hearings are held in accordance with House Rule 10.01. This rule has been posted online and is linked to our public meeting notice on the House website. All remote hearings will be recorded and live streamed by House Public Information Services. Members, you should have the contents of your virtual packets available. And the public will also have these available to them. They are posted online. Members, if you're looking for all of these materials in one place, they're attached to the calendar event that Ms. Burt sent out for today. To get on the list to be recognized by the chair, members using the Zoom interface have the ability to raise their hand via the app. Ms. Burt will place your name on the list to be recognized. Right now, Ms. Sunderland, will you take the roll, please?
Chair Dabney is excused. Vice Chair Sandstead.
Present.
Representative Kresha.
Present.
Representative Bennett.
Present.
Representative Daniels.
Present.
Representative Damath.
Present.
Representative Drazkowski.
Present.
Representative Erickson.
Present.
Representative Feist.
Present.
Representative Jordan.
Present.
Representative Marquardt.
Representative Marquardt is logging in just a moment.
Perfect. Representative Mueller. Representative Mueller. Representative Richardson.
Present.
Representative Thompson.
Thompson, present.
Representative Wolgamott is excused, but will be joining us in just a bit. Representative Zhang.
Present.
And Representative Joachim. Representative Joachim. That is the roll, and we do have a quorum.
Very good, thank you. Representative Feist, have you had an opportunity to review the minutes from Thursday, March 11? And if so, would you like to move approval of those minutes?
Yes, I have, Madam Chair, and I move those minutes.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Very good, the motion or the minutes are approved. Today in committee, we have House File 1376 from Representative Frazier before us. Members, it is our intention today to lay this bill over for further consideration and possible inclusion in a future omnibus bill by 11:55 today. And we will be, instead of adjourning, we will be recessing at the end of our agenda this morning. Representative Thompson, would you like to make a motion to move House File 1376 before the committee to lay it over for further consideration and possible inclusion in a future omnibus bill?
Yes, Madam Chair, I move House File 1376 before the committee to lay it over for further consideration and possible inclusion into a future omnibus bill.
Very good. Thank you, Representative Thompson. Welcome, Representative Frazier. Before you introduce your bill, I understand you have an author's amendment you'd like to offer to get the bill into the shape you'd prefer. With that, I'm going to move the A21-0089 amendment to be before the committee to put the bill in the shape that Representative Frazier desires. Representative Frazier, can you briefly describe your amendment and what it does?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Representative Johnson, for moving the original bill in front of us. This amendment clears up an issue that that we had with Minnesota State. There was concern about their 2-year residency program that they have in place that Pellsby, with the current language in the bill, would be seeking to overtake oversight of that program, and that is not the case. So we are deleting that language just to provide clarity.
Very good. Members, is there any discussion or questions regarding this A1 amendment? Okay, we will be taking a voice vote on adoption of this amendment. All in favor of adopting the A1-0089 amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Very good. Representative Frazier, we now have House File 1370. I have to look at this, 1376 as amended before us. Welcome to the committee. Please go ahead and introduce your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. I'm happy to be here today, along with staff from Pellsby and other testifiers to present House File 1376. This bill comes 3 years after the adoption of the tiered licensure system for teacher educators. During the 3 years, there has been constant engagement and analysis to determine what is working and what can be improved. This bill works to stabilize the areas that have provided clear and thoughtful pathways into the profession and propose changes to address the barriers, from as small as changing Minnesota to state in a few places to promote the work of out-of-state candidates in preparation, to as big as moving content and pedagogy testing barriers out of Tier 3 requirements. I often refer to educators as nation builders. Unfortunately, our nation builders do not currently reflect the students in our classrooms. This bill seeks to help change that reality. I will not go into the details of this bill because Director of Education Policy, Dr. Elena Bailey, and Executive Director Alex Liuzzi from Pellsby are here to do that. However, I will take a moment to highlight a few things. This bill will make over 1,000 individuals currently on a Tier 2 license qualify for a Tier 3 license, approximately 25% whom are individuals of color. Just over 1,000 individuals who are currently enrolled in preparation or have a master's degree in the content would have no change to their Tier 2 status. Additionally, I offered an amendment to this bill to ensure Tier 2 individuals of color will be able to move to a Tier 3 after 3 years of teaching. While this bill provides the supports to help teachers of color meet state standards and move up the tiered system, it now ensures there are multiple pathways for teachers of color. This amendment reflects the shared investment among legislators and stakeholders in making sure Minnesota students have educators that reflect them, leading the classroom. This bill includes provisions that recognize CTE teachers' unique role in our education system. While CTE teachers may still obtain a Tier 3 license through portfolio or a Tier 4 license by completing teacher prep, they are now also allowed unlimited renewals of a Tier 2 license under this bill. This language was added after hearing from CTE educators about their unique needs as educators who often work primarily in their vocational setting. I have heard these stories directly from stakeholders around the state in my role as a member of the Industrial Education and Economic Development Committee. This is just one example of how this bill works as a package to meet the various needs of Minnesota educators. I continue to hear that this bill removes a pathway that allows effectiveness in the classroom to count as a pathway to licensure. Let's be clear. That phrase, effectiveness in the classroom, is a reference to one summative evaluation from one supervisor that does not put the person on an improvement plan. This is an evaluation tool that is not consistent, that is not a consistent measure across the state, nor is it consistently applied. And this tool is not asking the question, is this an effective educator? Instead, it is a personnel tool for the district to evaluate how the teacher is performing in their assignment. A license to teach should be different, and it should be different than an administrator's evaluation. If a district wants to prepare their Tier 1 and Tier 2 teachers for a professional license, they can become a teacher preparation program or help support these teachers as they seek a Tier 3 license through the portfolio process. We need to ensure that all teachers have been trained in content and pedagogy, and then let districts decide which of those teachers are effective in their settings. I believe we can all agree that a teacher who is stellar in one setting may be inadequate in another. Lastly, no one will be removed from the classroom in this bill, and many more people will be added to the classroom. Instead, this bill does more to help move individuals from Tier 2 to Tier 3 pathways, as well as including a BA exemption and other small changes to increase access to more individuals. Now, I do not believe this bill will be a panacea, but instead, it is another tool to help address and close on the worst educational disparity gaps in the country. Chair, now I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Bailey and Mr. Liuzzi to address the bill in more detail.
Very good. Members, before we do that, I just want to announce that Representative Joachim, Representative Mariani, and Representative Wolgamont have joined us. I think we will start with Alex Liuzzi. Please identify yourself for the committee and proceed with your testimony.
Actually, I will defer first to Dr. Elena Bailey to do that, and then I will jump in. So first, Dr. Bailey.
Very good. Welcome to the committee, Dr. Bailey. Please identify yourself and proceed.
Good afternoon, or good morning, I should say, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for having us both here. My name is Elena Bailey, and I am the Director of Education Policy for the Professional Educator Licensing and Standards Board. This bill is rather comprehensive and includes both larger proposals as well as smaller technical changes. Overall, the purpose of this bill is to strengthen tiered licensure, to enhance teacher preparation, accountability, and reporting, and to increase the board's capacity to carry out the duties delegated to the legislature. Instead of section by section, I will provide an overview of our bill and highlight kind of key changes. So Pell's is responsible for overseeing all teacher preparation programs leading to licensure in Minnesota, as well as the licensure of teachers, substitutes, and related service providers. This includes overseeing licensure renewal and compliance, as well as reviewing ethics complaints. This work is done by Pellsby's mighty staff of 22. The board itself is currently comprised of 11 volunteer members who rigorously carry out their duties through board and committee work. Pellsby proposes adding 2 teacher members to the board in order to better facilitate the board's work, as well as to ensure there's a strong representation of classroom teachers on the board. Additionally, this bill clarifies the role of the teacher preparation member and expands the criteria for the administrator of a cooperative unit to meet the intent of the position while ensuring there are sufficient qualified candidates in the state. The second operational proposal is an increase of the licensing fee from $57 to $85. This amount simply adjusts the current licensing fee for inflation, since it has not changed since 2003. It is important to note that this fee increase does not increase Pellsby's budget. It merely aligns fees collected to the general fund with what is already allocated to Pellsby. The second overarching theme of this bill is to enhance teacher preparation, accountability, and reporting. This bill combines and replaces 2 separate statutes pertaining to teacher preparation in alignment with Pellsby's efforts to ensure all approved programs, whether they are offered by institutes of higher education or alternative providers, are viewed as legitimate pathways. Previously, these statutes separated traditional teacher preparation and alternative teacher preparation, despite the fact that both should and are now required by administrative rule to meet the same state standards for approval. The second change regarding teacher prep is related to 122A.091 subdivision 1. And that outlines data to be collected on teacher preparation. This bill proposes improving the quality of data collected from prep providers and discontinuing the district report. Current parameters around district reporting provide little in the way of useful data. For instance, districts are currently required to report probationary teachers who are let go and identify where they were prepared. However, teachers are let go for a number of reasons, such as budgetary restrictions and other concerns. These are not necessarily a reflection of the teacher's preparation or their effectiveness. A better source of this information is the survey data collected on all newly inducted teachers by teacher preparation providers in the data summary report. Changes proposed in this bill would strengthen that data by using information reported by districts and program completers through the Common Metrics Survey. This bill also makes the reporting language inclusive of alternative providers. So the next major theme is regarding licensure. This bill includes a number of adjustments to the tiered licensure system that will provide needed flexibility for districts, increase teacher support, and strengthen the quality of teachers in Minnesota classrooms. Many districts have expressed a need for flexibility when it comes to licensing educators in the performing arts and world languages. Under this proposal, these individuals, most of whom would have been considered non-licensed community experts under the old licensure system, would now be able to obtain a tiered license in a comparable way to CTE teachers. This bill also includes a number of provisions intended to help teachers move up the tiered system, such as requiring that Tier 1 and Tier 2 teachers receive mentorship and professional development designed to help them obtain a Tier 3 license. With that added support in place, this bill would modify the requirements for a Tier 2 license by removing the option to qualify by graduate credits and testing. Tier 2 would then be for educators who have advanced content expertise, such as those who hold a master's degree, and those enrolled in teacher preparation. There is also specific language in Tier 2 that meets the unique needs of CTE teachers and CTE programs in the state. CTE teachers would be eligible for a Tier 2 license based on 2 years of teaching experience with unlimited renewals. With the additional support and clarifications to Tiers 1 and 2, this bill modifies the requirements for a Tier 3 by removing the option to qualify based on 3 years of experience and allowing those who completed prep out of state to qualify. These changes ensure that anyone who holds a Tier 3 license has demonstrated their ability to meet state standards by completing a portfolio or teacher preparation. Today, you will likely hear from testifiers who will say that allowing teachers to obtain a Tier 3 license without evidencing pedagogical and content knowledge is the only way to increase teachers of color. This is an extremely dangerous narrative that perpetuates the idea that people of color are somehow less capable than their white counterparts. In reality, it is not our ability that is the issue, but rather the structural barriers that prevent us from achievement. PELSB supports removing those barriers to build a teacher workforce that is not only diverse, but also equitable. You are also likely to hear from testifiers today that their skills and experience should be counted when considering qualifications for a Tier 3 license. To that, we say yes, and yes, you have unique expertise and experiences that make you an expert in your content area. And we want to ensure you have the support and pedagogical training to put those skills to use in serving Minnesota students. If teacher preparation is not the best path, then PELSB would love to support you through the portfolio process. Unfortunately, many Tier 1 and Tier 2 educators have been dissuaded by the idea that the portfolio is too costly or too difficult a pathway. To address that, PELSB has initiated a partnership with several educational organizations to better support cohorts of portfolio applicants and help them document their success while they are teaching. This would mean that they would receive guided support while creating their portfolio during the 6 years they are on a Tier 2. They can actually apply after the first 2 years and then become eligible for a Tier 3 license. Additionally, we are working on fee waivers for applicants for whom the cost is a barrier. As I've hopefully made clear, PELSB is not interested in keeping good teachers out of the classroom. Instead, we are committed to helping those teachers meet state standards and stay in the classroom because we know they are capable of doing so. In addition to the modifications of Tiers 1 and 2, this bill also proposes moving the requirement to pass content and pedagogy exams to Tier 4. This would allow individuals, especially those for whom testing is a barrier, 3 years on a Tier 3 to receive the additional test preparation support from their teacher preparation program, as is required in statute, and their district. These content and pedagogy exams would then replace the requirement to pass the basic skills exam for a Tier 4 license, which we propose eliminating because there is no evidence that skills exams relate to teacher efficacy. Our proposal to remove the basic skills exam is in alignment with HF 217 and the Increased Teachers of Color Act. This proposal would help nearly 40% of Tier 2 holders who have completed teacher preparation but not yet passed their exams obtain a Tier 3 license. The final changes to tiered licensure included in this bill are related to licensure renewal. These include developing renewal requirements that are specific to Tier 3 renewal, which, with the changes previously mentioned, would be specifically for first-time teachers. We are also proposing clarity around renewal that ensures all teachers must complete the required cultural competency training and meeting the needs of multilingual learners. The bill includes a number of smaller policy and technical changes, and we would be happy to answer any questions on those items now or at a later date. So let me close my portion by prefacing some of the testimony you are likely to hear today. You may hear from administrator organizations who ask the state to trust in the supports they provide teachers to replace meeting state teaching standards. At the same time, they say that requiring mentorship and adding professional development requirements is a barrier. PELSB proposes working with these districts to develop the existing supports for Tier 1 and Tier 2 teachers in a way that ensures they can move up the tiers and obtain a Tier 3 license. This may mean partnering with their Tier 2 teachers as they complete the portfolio, or it may mean a district becomes an alternative provider that can prepare all of its Tier 1 and Tier 2 teachers for Tier 3 licensure. In fact, we are working with the district on that right now. As Representative Frazier stated, this bill is about stabilizing tiered licensure by clarifying pathways and removing unnecessary barriers. This bill keeps the core intent of each tier. Tier 1 remains a license that allows districts to fill an immediate need when it cannot find a higher licensed teacher. However, it clarifies this as an entry point to the profession by putting in place a structure that won't just keep an individual at a Tier 1, but instead move them up the tiers and provide them with the support to stay in the profession. Tier 2 remains a license that allows a district to choose to hire an individual enrolled in teacher preparation, which supports grow your own pathways, residency models, and other alternative preparation models, where an individual would like to teach while learning. This bill also keeps this as a license that allows a district to choose to hire an individual who is a content expert, either through CTE qualifications or through a master's degree in their content area. Notably, this bill makes Tier 3 designed for teachers who have met state standards for the profession of teaching, and then includes targeted professional development to support our newest teachers. Finally, Tier 4 remains the license for a trained and experienced teacher. The most notable changes to this pathway is allowing out-of-state teachers who have years of teaching experience to immediately qualify for a Tier 4 license, rather than requiring 3 years of teaching at a Tier 3 first. A question was asked at the House Education Policy Committee hearing for this bill. What will this bill fix? And I was only given 20 seconds to answer. So with a little more time today, I'd just like to offer a few, though still not a comprehensive list, of issues with licensure that this bill aims to fix. One, teachers enrolled in preparation outside of Minnesota would be eligible for a Tier 2 license now. Secondly, out-of-state teachers with years of experience can come to Minnesota on a Tier 4 license. Third, 1,000 teachers who have met state standards through teacher preparation but are stuck in a Tier 2 license because of testing will move to a Tier 3. Fourth, Tier 1 and Tier 2 teachers will receive the supports they need to move up the tiers. Fifth, Tier 3 teachers will have renewal requirements targeted to new teachers. Sixth, cultural competency training and meeting the needs of multilingual learners will finally become standalone renewal requirements. Seventh, renewal requirements identified in statute will no longer be able to be met by any professional development provided by for-profit companies offering quick and easy renewal hours. Eighth, alternative pathways will not be identified as separate and lesser than traditional teacher preparation. And ninth, districts will not need to spend hours compiling a report that is not a useful measure of teacher preparation programs. Instead, valid and reliable performance assessments, surveys, and other data points will be used to evaluate teacher preparation providers. While all the changes in this bill are on one hand about stabilizing teacher licensure or tiered licensure, this is also a big picture bill. It frames how we see teaching as a profession that requires both the art of connecting with students and the science of knowing how young minds learn, how to assess that learning, how to work with diverse students in diverse settings, and how to turn content knowledge into engaging and effective lessons. It also frames how we understand the purpose of state standards, teacher preparation, and renewal. It frames whether we see teacher development and evaluation as a personnel tool for districts and teachers or as a licensure tool. The vast majority of this bill has nearly universal stakeholder support. And I hope stakeholders testifying today will let you know all the parts of this bill that will increase pathways and strengthen supports for teachers, in particular out-of-state teachers, Black teachers, Indigenous teachers, and other teachers of color. So I would like to now turn things over to our Executive Director, Alex Liuzzi, to address some of the concerns raised by testifiers at the House Education Policy Committee hearing for this bill.
Thank you, Dr. Bailey. Before we go to Alex Liuzzi, I need to correct the record. Earlier, I announced that Representative Mary Ani had joined the committee. That is not correct. Representative Marquardt has joined the committee. And welcome to the committee, Alex Liuzzi. Please identify yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. My name is Alex Liuzzi. I'm the Executive Director of the Professional Educator Licensing and Standards Board.
Madam Chair.
Representative Krisha.
Thank you. Just a process question, and something that triggered me from Dr. Bailey, if I could, Madam Chair.
Sure.
So I heard that the testifier, and the reason I interrupted, the testifier we're about to hear is going to do a rebuttal to what happened in policy committee. We're a finance committee. My question is on your latitude. If we're going to handle those policy rebuttals and we're going to hand that, are we then going to be asking policy related questions in finance too? What would be your intent for the committee today?
Thank you, Representative Krisha. My intent today is to allow all of our identified testifiers to go ahead and proceed with their testimony, and then to allow our members to ask the appropriate questions at the end of of hearing all of those testifiers. And I think that part of what we're going to hear today is going to contribute to the overall picture of the bill. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and let Mr. Liuzzi continue with his testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members. I regretfully was not available to testify during the House Education Policy, but was able to listen into those. So appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak today on the broad bill. It is a large bill with many changes across the entire scope of the work of PELSB, impacting teacher ethics, the board membership, licensure renewal, and yes, tiered licensure. And as Dr. Bailey said, the majority of this bill does have universal support from stakeholders. In no way does this bill dump tiered licensure in the trash, as was suggested in a previous hearing. It strengthens it. It makes the necessary changes any major piece of legislation needs. Everyone, for example, agrees that someone in a North Dakota blind and visually impaired licensure program should have access to a Tier 2 license, which they currently do not. But there are a few areas without full stakeholder support, and the central concern that we have heard is this bill's proposal to close the pathway for an individual to a Tier 3 license after 3 years of experience and not being put on an improvement plan. 3 years experience on a Tier 2 and not being on an improvement plan. The narrative that this forces individuals into expensive teacher preparation programs and does not value experience and effectiveness are false. However, there is a valid concern that we have heard regarding the disproportionate impact this change would have on Tier 2 teachers of color, teachers who have faced systemic and institutionalized barriers in access to higher education and been intentionally removed from the profession of teaching at times in our history. Representative Frazier has thoughtfully worked to craft an amendment offered last Friday that ensures approximately 100 teachers of color on Tier 2 license who are not enrolled in teacher preparation will not face more barriers. But tiered licensure is multifaceted, and it can be easy to believe that this bill impacts someone when it actually does not. Every person who believes that traditional teacher preparation is their only pathway to a Tier 3 license should call PELSB, call me, and allow us to walk them through their options. We know from experience that information from education stakeholder groups and administrators provided regarding tiered licensure is sometimes inaccurate. After listening to the hearings in the House Education Policy Committee from individuals claiming they will be forced out of teaching if this bill is passed, we think it's important for legislators to understand each of these situations. So one person has completed teacher preparation all the way up to student teaching and has now taught 5 years. The portfolio process would be simple for this individual, as their program likely already met the standards required for the portfolio, and the 5 years of teaching should have the necessary examples of application to replace student teaching. One person mentioned that tests have been an incredible barrier and opposed this bill's provision, reducing a Tier 2 renewal from 8 years to 6 years in order for heritage language teachers to have more time to take exams. Actually, this bill removes those exams from a Tier 3 license. Another person mentioned the lack of CTE teacher preparation programs in the state, and thus the inability to move to a Tier 3 license. First, that is why this bill has an unlimited Tier 2 renewals for career and technical educators, a license where the teacher does not lose their job every 2 years, and the district can rehire them as they would any Tier 3 or Tier 4 teacher. Second, PELSB has streamlined the portfolio process for CTE teachers so that they can use their work experience or professional certification for their content portfolio. This person, because we as a state believe pedagogy is important when working with students, would need to either evidence meeting the pedagogy standards before moving to a Tier 3 license, or could remain without harm on a Tier 2 license. Another person has a PhD and a Tier 2 license. What this person did not say was that she actually held a Tier 4 license and surrendered it because she wanted to change licensure areas. Adding a licensure field to a Tier 4 license, especially with a PhD in that new field, would be an extremely easy process to the licensure via portfolio, and is the process all Tier 4 teachers undertake to add licensure areas. Another person was on a tier license. This bill requires districts to support that individual to move up the tiers, not currently in legislation. This bill does limit a Tier 1 license to 4 years, but that would be sufficient time for the district to support them to move up tiers, or if there is good cause, they can receive additional renewals of their Tier 1. Another person is enrolled in preparation, so they will automatically move to a Tier 3 when their preparation is complete. 2 individuals have completed teacher preparation out of state. So actually the only thing keeping them from a Tier 3 license are the content and the pedagogy tests specific to Minnesota. And this bill actually is the answer to their concern. The majority of people who have testified against closing this Tier 2 to Tier 3 pathway have completed teacher preparation. The tests are the barrier, not a pathway that requires no preparation. But there is a misconception that 3 years of teaching with no improvement plan also waives the tests. This is inaccurate. For others, the problem is the portfolio process, hearing the narrative that this process is broken. Since the Department of Education has restarted the portfolio process in 2016, and then Pelsby has overseen it since 2017, which includes changes in rule to strengthen the portfolio process. 74% of applicants have been approved for licensure through the licensure via portfolio process. 74%. Is it an easy process? No, but we would argue that it shouldn't be. It is replacing formal, traditional, or alternative preparation. But it also shouldn't be inaccessible, which is why Pelsby offers trainings and supports, and now a cohort model to specifically support teachers of color to work with organizations to guide them through the process together. And we think because the narrative from supporters of removing this pathway, this Tier 2 to Tier 3 pathway, cite the licensure via portfolio process as the already available alternative, and because the narrative from those opposed claim that traditional teacher preparation is the only option, we want to spend just a couple minutes to explain the portfolio process for legislators. First, to apply, an individual must have taught for 1 year while in a mentorship program, or taught for 2 years without mentorship. This can easily be done on a Tier 1 or a Tier 2 license. Next, the individual needs to submit 2 portfolios, the standards of effective practice, which are the pedagogy standards, and then a content portfolio. This shows how the individual has learned and applied each of these standards for a professional license. There is no limit on the type of evidence one can use to show how they met these standards, but it is common to be a combination of coursework, professional development, evidence from teaching experience, evaluations, reflections, videos. In fact, one can even use a passing score on a board-approved performance assessment to meet standards. Then a panel of educators reviews the pedagogy portfolio, where the individual can come to that panel and answer questions and defend their portfolio. 2 content reviewers review the content portfolio. If standards are deemed not met at these reviews, the reviewers provide specific feedback on what was missing so that individuals can target remaining professional development to meet those unmet standards and resubmit for a second review at no fee. We have heard, speaking of fees, that fees can be a concern. Well, if they are a concern, Pelsby is allowed to waive the portfolio fee based on financial need, or the legislature could choose to waive the fee entirely, or simply for those applying in a shortage area. There are lots of options if the portfolio fee is a concern about individuals meeting the standards of effective practice. If complexity of the portfolio is a concern, Pelsby would gladly accept additional allocation to hire additional portfolio support staff. We currently have funds for 1 employee to facilitate the portfolio process, with many staff, including myself, spending time outside of our other duties to support organizations in this cohort project that we are piloting. 10 years ago, the portfolio process was confusing and not functioning as hoped, so much so that the Department of Education discontinued it. That is no longer the case. That was 10 years ago. Since Pelsby's existence, the portfolio process has been robust, has been clarified and streamlined, but we are still seeking to overcome that reputation of 10 years ago. Everyone who claims that the only pathway from a Tier 2 to a Tier 3 license is traditional and expensive teacher preparation has not heard of Grow Your Own Pathways, residency models, the wide-ranging non-traditional models across the state, or the 4 alternative pathways currently operating in Minnesota. And if those options are still not accessible, which we know that could be the case, they should contact us to help guide them through the portfolio process. This is not a one-size-fits-all approach or a one-pathway approach to professional licensure. It is an approach that recognizes that standards for effective practice are essential for quality educators to meet the needs of all our students, and that meeting those standards can come in a million different forms. So at this point, the debate can start to grow a bit abstract, with one side claiming that Tier 2 to Tier 3 pathway uses effectiveness as a measure, and the other side claiming that meeting the state standards should be the measure. I believe Representative Frazier already debunked the notion that one supervisor not putting someone on an improvement plan is a demonstration of effectiveness. So let's take one moment to not be abstract about standards. There are 125 standards just in the standards of effective practice. Those cover everything from the ability to establish learning environments, ability to work with diverse students, understand and apply assessment tools, and planning and implementing effective instruction. Here's one of those standards, one of those 125 standards. A teacher must know about the process of second language acquisition and about strategies to support the learning of students whose first language is not English. If we do not remove this Tier 2 to Tier 3 pathway, an individual is not required to meet this standard. Districts are not required to provide any support for them to meet that standard. Because a Tier 2 license is bound to a district, that individual may be in a classroom with no exposure to students whose first language is not English, and yet their experience there could lead them to a full Tier 3 license to teach anywhere. Statute also requires much of teacher preparation programs, including requiring candidates are taught scientifically based reading instruction, technology strategies, and meeting the needs of multilingual learners. All of these statutes are made irrelevant if the Tier 2 to Tier 3 pathway with only experience remains. If we do not remove this pathway, the state of Minnesota remains the lowest bar in the nation for a professional license, allowing an individual with no training to become a professional teacher. This individual may or may not be taught about scientifically based reading instruction. This individual may or may not know how to support multilingual learners. This individual may or may not understand child development, how to differentiate learning for students at all levels, how to design engaging, culturally relevant lessons, how to assess that learning. This individual may or may not know the standards this state has said are needed for effective practice in the profession of education. If a district is providing those supports that administrative groups indicate they currently provide to their Tier 1 and Tier 2 teachers, supports that align to these standards, then these individuals should have no problem completing the licensure via portfolio process using the professional development and experience that evidences meeting these standards. But districts are not teacher preparation providers. Administrative groups have voiced actually opposition to mentorship and support requirements in this bill and other bills, and are traditionally opposed to new professional development requirements. All students deserve effective educators in the classroom. It is the mission of PELSB. This means trained and supported teachers who meet the state standards for effective teaching, which is why this bill, in collaboration with hundreds of stakeholders, strengthens tiered licensure to push teachers up the tiers and ensures only fully prepared teachers receive professional license to teach anywhere in Minnesota. This also means a racially and ethnically diverse teaching workforce. If you support PELSB's goal to increase teachers of color in Minnesota, support this bill to add approximately 200 teachers removed from the classroom when tiered licensure took effect because they did not have a bachelor's degree. If you support PELSB's goal to move teachers of color up the tiers instead of being stuck on a Tier 1 or a Tier 2 license, support this bill that requires districts to support their teachers to move up the tiers. Support this bill that would take approximately 250 teachers of color, 250, holding a Tier 2 license with completed teacher preparation, and immediately qualify them for a Tier 3 license. If you believe that all students, and particularly students of color in the state, deserve educators that have the necessary training and supports to be effective educators, support this bill. And by the way, support the provisions in House File 217 that, among many things, target funding and supports for teachers of color to become fully trained. We do not believe the state should hope for the best when moving an individual to a Tier 3 license. We believe that statutory and administrative rule standards, the standards of effective practice for the profession, should be met by all teachers before receiving a full professional license in Minnesota. Finally, it was suggested in the House Education Policy Committee that no one asked for these changes, that this is Pellsby's suggestion alone. That is inaccurate. Every single education organization we work with has informed Pellsby of at least one, if not dozens, of changes they seek for tiered licensure. From education groups lamenting the loss of the community expert type permission, from administrators and charter school leaders losing great native language teachers and performing arts teachers when a bachelor's requirement was put in place, from American Sign Language teachers enrolled in an online teacher preparation program in Colorado, unable to access a Tier 2 license. And then countless individuals asking for changes, from out-of-state teachers wondering why they are relegated to a Tier 2 license despite passing tests in their state and having 20 years of experience, to teachers of color in Minnesota who completed teacher preparation programs but are stuck on a Tier 2 license because they are unable to pass the content and pedagogy tests. This bill addresses all these concerns. Additionally, two principals at a conference at the Minnesota Rural Educators Association came up to me separately and said that they will never hire another Tier 1 person, that Tier 1 individual had no understanding of how to work with students and required so much support that their Tier 4 teachers were overwhelmed in supporting them. An administrator in Rochester asked if Pellsby could support them with mentorship for their Tier 1 and Tier 2 teachers. Why? Because that administrator had to hire co-teachers with a Tier 4 license to teach with those Tier 1 and Tier 2 teachers to support them in classroom management, lesson planning, instruction, and assessment. And just a few weeks ago, an HR representative told me, can we do something to make tiered licensure clearer? I spend half my time hand-holding Tier 1 and Tier 2 teachers through the process. Tiered licensure did not fix licensure problems, but it was a step in the right direction. This bill is another step in that direction, simplifying, clarifying, and strengthening tiered licensure. This bill is the product of 3 years of stakeholder feedback directed to Pellsby, combined into a package that keeps the focus on a single mission, the mission of Pellsby, and hopefully the mission of this legislature, ensuring all Minnesota students have quality educators. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today.
Thank you, Mr. Liuzzi. Members, we have two more testifiers that I'm going to hear from, and then we will pause for questions. Representative Krisha, I see your hand is up. Can you wait for two more testifiers?
Actually, it's a process question, so I'd rather ask it now.
Okay, go ahead.
We have two more testifiers, and are those testifiers in support? Is there anybody in the public testifying against this? And the reason I'm asking is, I mean, we're 45 minutes in with 45 minutes left. Do you anticipate more than 15 minutes for questions? I'm just trying to be respectful of your agenda.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much, Representative Krisha. The two testifiers now are in support of the bill. Then we would, my proposal is to break for questions. We have a list of testifiers from the public, and I don't know if they are for or against. But I'd like to move on so we can have as much time for questions.
I understand that, Madam Chair. And so just a question, I mean, if there's those that want to test in opposition to this, I think they should be allowed some time. I mean, we've done a full
Absolutely.
rebuttal of, and so I just want to point that out.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Representative Krisha. I think it's our intent here to have a very robust hearing, and it's certainly my intention to hear both for and against. So with that, I'm going to move on. Next up is Sumer Sheikh, Literacy Instructional Coach from the Cloquet Public Schools. Welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Sansid, and committee members. Thank you for your attention to this matter and listening to my testimony. My name is Sumer Sheikh. I work at Cloquet Public Schools, ISD 94, and I live in Duluth. I'm here to support House File 1376 and view the bill through the lens of equity and responsiveness. I see this bill getting current and potential teachers what they need when they need it. And I think it does a better job of removing barriers while upholding the priority of developing teacher skills. I'm speaking to you today from the perspective of a licensed teacher who moved to Minnesota almost 9 years ago and had to jump through all the hoops of the previous licensure system. It was a major pain, and I had 7 years of classroom and teaching experience in 2 different states prior to arriving here. So I'm glad that there is a new system that's less cumbersome and less restrictive. It's better, and it can keep getting better. I'm also speaking from the perspective of a teacher of color living in Greater Minnesota, who also instructs equity and inclusion in education, a college level course, a teacher preparation course at the College of St. Scholastica. This bill is not about closing pathways. In my mind, it's about strengthening pathways and further supporting people in their professional pursuits through quality teacher preparation, mentorship, and professional development. Not only do our educators of color deserve the best paths into the classroom, ultimately all of our students will benefit from this system. Expanding the bachelor's degree exemption and eliminating pedagogy and content area tests is more equitable and anti-racist. This move also helps meet the needs of future workforce demands. There will be a better path into schools for potential skilled and experienced CTE, world language, and art teachers. In my experiences working closely with district level CTE leaders, Spanish and Ojibwe language educators, this is the kind of barrier that needs to be removed to get teachers with relevant experiences that will inspire the next generation of trades, medical, technical workers, and develop students with more robust cultural and linguistic awareness. This bill will also allow for increased representation and voices from Greater Minnesota by adding the 2 members to PELSB. Finally, this bill will increase teachers receiving cultural competency training. And as a facilitator of this component of relicensure, I can't emphasize enough the importance of this part of a teacher's PD experience. I have witnessed growth that would not have normally occurred if this component was not in place. This is direct impacts on teachers being more aware of their own biases and the cultural responsive learning environments that they can create. This is imperative in creating successful learning environments for our students. I strongly urge the committee to keep moving this bill forward and continue to strengthen our licensure system. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you for your testimony. Up next is Courtney Roach, a school counselor from the Bertha Hewitt School District. Please identify yourself and proceed.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Courtney Roach, and I am a school counselor at Bertha Hewitt Public School in Bertha, Minnesota. Bertha is a small town in Todd County. Our school currently has around 500 students K-12, and the teacher shortage is particularly challenging for Greater Minnesota. When a position is posted in the rural schools, we are lucky to get 10 qualified applicants, unlike the cities where they can get over 100 for one position. The needs of schools and students in Greater Minnesota, especially rural Minnesota, are very different from those in the Twin Cities. Students in Greater Minnesota have to overcome many obstacles to learning, including extreme poverty and lack of access to resources. Todd County specifically is the poorest county in Minnesota. When our students come to school, they need their teachers to be the best prepared and the most caring to meet their needs and close the achievement gap, which is why I support teacher preparation programs. Whether it's classroom management or SEL programs, pedagogy, or curriculum differentiation for students at various levels of learning, these things cannot be learned outside of teacher preparation programs. We need to make sure that teachers have the skills to meet the needs of all of their students. Closing the achievement gap has been the focus of the Education Committee and Department of Education for years. You cannot close the achievement gap if you have teachers that are not prepared to meet the needs of all of their students. Second, we need to support teachers through the tiered licensure. This bill does not remove anyone from the classroom. A Tier 1 teacher can remain at a Tier 1 as long as the district provides professional development opportunities to the teacher. This is a compassionate change to keep more voices in our school while recognizing teachers need support to be successful. More than recruitment, we have a teacher retention issue at the state. Half of licensed teachers are not teaching in the classroom. Lastly, I appreciate how this bill expands the pathway to licensure for CTE, art, and world language teachers. This bill allows teachers in these areas to bring their real-world experiences to the classroom. The rural schools struggle often to fill these areas and are often made to share teachers from other school districts. At Bertha Hewitt, we ran into a situation where we have an art teacher with an elementary teaching degree and an Associates of Arts degree who would not be able to teach a high school art class because of the licensing standards. This bill addresses that issue and and is an incredible relief to our students and our teachers. I strongly support this bill because of the focus on strengthening skills for our teachers, which will benefit our students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Representative Krisha, we'll take a break right now for some questions, and I see your hand is up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, my hand, I hadn't lowered it, but I'll lower it now. But I would ask the committee to hear from the other side in public. That way we get a full picture before we ask questions, but your committee.
Very good. No, very good. No, that's my full intent to hear. Any other member questions at this time? Okay, seeing none, we're going to continue. Just as a reminder, this is the time that we want to hear public testimony for those who wish to speak either for or against the bill. When this hearing was proposed, the public was provided instructions on how to sign up and testify. We will proceed to hearing from those individuals who have signed up. Each of you will have 2 minutes, so please keep your eye on the chat. And we always reserve 10 minutes for public testimony for each hearing. Ms. Ideal Abdul, please identify yourself for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Are you able to hear me? It doesn't look like you can see me though.
We can hear you. Go ahead and continue.
Yeah, I have no idea what's wrong with my audio. I tell you, I try to be tech savvy. It's not working out. My name is Ideal Abdul. I'm an autism parent. I was going to say Mr. Chair, but Madam Chair, I was expecting Mr. Daphne. Many thanks for the opportunity to testify today and to speak for my son and other children like him. As you all are aware, Minnesota has a horrible and shameful education disparity gap. One of the reasons for education gap is teachers not reflecting the students. And I often wonder if my son's teacher reflected him, would the outcome have been different?
Ms. Abdul, we're unable to hear you. If you could keep
You're not able to hear me now either?
Please get closer to your microphone.
Okay, is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I apologize. So the current tier system was designed with a bipartisan manner that took everyone's perspectives to ensure equality and equity. Does it need improvement to increase teachers of color? In the words of Minnesota language, you betcha. However, what House File 1376 does is dismantle it. Now, PELSB can sugarcoat this all day long, but if it decreases teachers of color like a duck, if it makes hard for teachers who reflect the students to be in the classroom like a duck, then it's a duck. The fact that there have been current teachers, principals, and school administrators united in their opposition to this bill speaks volumes of the damage it will do. I hope our children's education is prioritized, not politicized. I would like to add, Madam Chair and members, that I think it's unfair that the supporters of this bill got an unlimited time to make their case, while those of us who oppose it only get 2 minutes each. I thought democracy was about fairness. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Abdul. Up next, we have Josh Croson from Ed Allies. Please identify yourself and proceed with the testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Joshua Croson. I'm with Ed Allies. Madam Chair, we just heard from PELSB and the bill author that reverting back to a broken licensure system is somehow progress. I'm here to speak on some of the concerns we have about this bill as amended. To start, only 5% of Minnesota's teachers are teachers of color, but over 20% of our Tier 1 and Tier 2 teachers are teachers of color. As PELSB's Executive Director Alex Lutz said on December 11th, tiered licensure is having an effect on bringing teachers of color into the profession. Our tiered licensure system is working. It's diversifying our teacher workforce by removing barriers to teaching for economically disadvantaged teachers and our teachers of color. Simply put, this bill undermines our progress. The bill we are considering today includes policies that rebuild those barriers that have kept certain teachers of color and teachers in shortage areas out of the classroom for far too long. First, this bill eliminates 10 of the 12 pathways to a Tier 2 license. There are over 2,300 Tier 2 teachers in Minnesota, and many of them would have their licenses stripped away from them if this bill moves forward. Countless more would be blocked from the profession of teaching altogether. Second, this bill removes the pathway that allows Tier 2 teachers to be promoted to Tier 3 licensure based on their years of experience and teacher effectiveness. Teachers have indicated that they have been planning their lives around achieving Tier 3 licensure as early as this August, and this bill would be pulling the rug from underneath them, moving the goalposts once again. Third, this bill ends unlimited renewals for teachers of color and teachers in shortage areas by name in Tier 1 licensure. And lastly, this bill eliminates a clear timeline when Pels B must inform teachers and their administrators of licensure decisions. Current law requires Pels B at least 30 days to provide a recommendation for licensure, and this bill simply just removes that timeline, allowing Pels B to do some sort of pocket veto in deciding not to license certain teachers, which then makes it difficult or impossible for teachers then to appeal that decision.
Mr. Krasson, please wrap up.
Okay. There's other stuff that was mentioned today, but just to conclude, this bill reverses our efforts, and I would hope for a no vote. Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Krasson. Up next is Maggie Borman. Please identify yourself and proceed.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Maggie Borman, and I've been in education for 10 years, all of them teaching and leading at low-income schools across Minneapolis. Today, I'm testifying on behalf of myself, Loy Wobler, and Katie Gros-de-Avigna. We are all former founding members of Pels B who helped write the tiered licensure rules, and we want to urge you to vote against this problematic bill. The intent of tiered licensure legislation was to open up more diverse pathways into the classroom, and it's been working. Currently, 21% of teachers of color in Minnesota are on Tier 1 or Tier 2 licenses. And also many schools use these licenses to fill chronically open positions like special education. At every Pels B meeting, we would hear from school leaders how important it was to have these Tier 1 and Tier 2 licenses granted. They would tell us how amazing this candidate was, or how they only had one other applicant, or why the other applicants were not the right fit. They would beg us to approve these licenses. Schools know their context better than we ever could, and they need to have the flexibility to hire who they think will best serve their students. This bill goes directly against this principle. There are a few problematic parts of this bill, but as former Pels B members, there are two parts that we absolutely oppose. First, limiting the options to obtain a Tier 2 license. The intent of a Tier 2 was to give those who are not enrolled in traditional teacher preparation, but have other important qualifications, a pathway into the classroom. By removing all these coursework options, you eliminate many talented professionals who want to work with kids. And second, removing the Tier 2 to Tier 3 pathway for current teachers who have at least 3 years of experience and proven effectiveness. As a Tier 4 teacher myself, some of the best educators I've worked with were Tier 1 or 2. If they've proven they're effective, why would we deny them a permanent license? Removing this pathway will push effective educators out of the profession. Pels B and much of the Minnesota legislature have affirmed their support for diversifying our teaching force. And looking at recent Pels B data, Tier 1 and Tier 2 licenses are some of the most immediate and effective strategies that we have to bring in more teachers of color and fill shortage areas.
Please wrap up.
Yes, including these two harmful changes would erect barriers to recruiting diverse people into teaching and push out many effective teachers who are already in their classrooms. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Up next is Tanya Ellen. Please identify yourself and proceed. I am not hearing from Tanya. If she's on our call, I'm going to move to the next testifier and we will come back to her. Next up is Laura Mogelson. Please identify yourself and proceed.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Can you hear me? Great. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'm here on behalf of MACD, the Minnesota Association of Colleges of Teacher Education. We are supportive of all paths to licensure that require candidates to meet the same standards required by Pels B, including traditional teacher preparation programs, alternative preparation, two-year transfer pathways, and the licensure by portfolio option. In these paths, candidates are required to provide evidence that they have mastered the same set of standards for pedagogy and content knowledge. So we're supportive of House File 1376, and in particular, the change that has been highlighted so much today, that is the path from Tier 2 to Tier 3 without evidence of being on an improvement plan. So here's the issue simply. Teachers following this route have not gone through any kind of process where there's evidence that they meet the teacher licensure standards set forth by Pels B. These teachers don't complete the board-approved performance assessment, nor do they have to show evidence of meeting the standards. Yes, their building administrators have evaluated their performance using a personnel evaluation tool, but that tool isn't aligned nor intentionally connected with the licensure standards. So in an attempt to create more access, this specific issue has created a pathway that doesn't have parity. This path from tier 2 to tier 3 without an incident is not equivalent to meeting the tier 3 standards. So the portfolio process is one excellent option for these teachers to earn the tier 3 license, as well as the other pathways we have available here in Minnesota. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Up next is Jose Perez. Please identify yourself and proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Jose Perez. I'm a freshman at St. Paul College, a first-generation high school graduate, and I am here to oppose House File 1376. School has always been a struggle for me. I was forced to repeat first grade. Reading was especially painful. And up until fourth grade, whenever I was told to take tests, I would bang my head on the desk until they let me out of taking. Teachers would mention I may have dyslexia, but I was never given specific support. And in ninth grade, I failed most of my classes, and I was on track to drop out. Luckily, I found my way to an alternative school, which serves students who have struggled in other schools. For me, it was a trip of two and a half hours each way every day, taking 2 buses, a train, and then a long walk home. I made that sacrifice because I could learn with passionate teachers who built relationships and re-engaged me and so many others in education. One of my most inspiring teachers was Ms. Hobbin. Ms. Hobbin is a Black graduate of Egan High and University of Chicago. She is in her 6th year teaching math. Ms. Hobbin has a Tier 2 license. My experience is why I oppose 1376. This bill will make it harder for outstanding Tier 1 and Tier 2 teachers like Ms. Hobbin to stay in teaching. Since Tier 1 and Tier 2 teachers are 4 times more likely to be of color than other tiers, this means 1376's new barriers will reduce the number of teachers of color in Minnesota. That would be a disaster for students like me, for whom teachers of color are often crucial in helping students of color reach our full potential. Please do not block our teachers who uplifted me and so many other young people from continuing their life-changing work. Thank you, Chair and members of the committee.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Perez. It looks like Ms. Allen had to hop off the call, but she did say that the other public testimony represented what her statements were. So with that, I see Representative Bennett has a question. Representative Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I have a question for Mr. Crossan.
Very good.
Yeah, Mr. Crossan, just wondering, can you kind of elaborate a little bit? You mentioned how this will hurt Tier 2 teachers, but wondering if you could elaborate on that a little bit and how it will hurt, especially maybe our rural schools as well.
Mr. Crossan.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Representative Bennett, thank you so much for the question. Absolutely. As I stated in my testimony, 10 of the 12 pathways that teachers currently use for Tier 2 licensure would be eliminated. So any teachers who are currently on those pathways would have their Tier 2 licenses removed. We heard testimony in the policy committee where a teacher, Mr. Holloway, completed his teacher preparation, but already had 5 years of teaching experience in the classroom, and was required to go back and do student teaching, pay for student teaching while taking 3 months off. His Tier 2 license would have transformed into a Tier 3 license after this year, but instead this bill would move him back, taking his Tier 2 license away, possibly giving him a Tier 1, but he's already indicated that he's no longer, he won't be teaching if his Tier 2 license is taken away. So it'll have ramifications across the state. I will say that Tier 1 licenses are often used for in Greater Rural Minnesota, but Minneapolis and St. Paul have the most Tier 1 and Tier 2 licenses in the state. It's also just important to note, and I think Representative Kresha pointed this out, that this is an education finance hearing. So it's important to note that this provision has no investments in professional development. It does not require schools or districts to provide that mentorship. It doesn't help teachers move up their professional ladders. So I encourage the Finance Committee to dive deeper into the questions or the claims that the author made of investments in professional development specifically. I think it's also just really clearly too to say that we heard that 1,000 teachers, Tier 2 teachers, would be able to move to a different tier. Well, again, there are 2,300 Tier 2 teachers. So my question is, what would happen to those other 1,300 Tier 2 teachers in this current system? Does that answer your question, Representative Bennett?
Representative Bennett, follow up?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And that does. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very good. Representative Kresha, you're up next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I have my hand up just to do closing comments for our side. So you can let everyone else go ahead.
Very good. Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I would like to ask Mr. Luisi a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Executive Director Luigi, why is it that you feel PELSB should have more authority to write and create rules? Isn't the legislature the policy maker of all of our agencies' workings?
Mr. Liuzzi.
The role of the legislature and administrative rule, I am not an expert on, but what I do know is that this state has many boards that write rules that help clarify the policies that are put into the legislation. And that's a fairly standard process, understanding that those boards are made up of experts in those fields and can help provide some of that detail. So even with tiered licensure, it required some rulemaking to define some of those pieces for that process piece. The same has been true for teacher preparation providers. It's pretty broad in statute of what is required for teacher preparation providers. So the state relies on experts in the profession to then dig deeper and put some of those details into administrative rule.
Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. But Mr. Luigi, the legislature is an elected body that sets policy. And so I think that you're taking away a prerogative that we've been given by being elected to this legislature and to give direction to our agencies and a board like PELSB. My next question is, why change the definition of teacher to include permission?
Mr. Liuzzi.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Representative Erickson. We wanted to make sure that we think this is just a technical change because there are two types of permissions used in this state, an innovative program permission and an out of field permission. And based on current legislation, we were unclear that individuals who have a tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 license, but on an out of field permission would be counted as teachers in other areas of statute. So that was really just to clarify, to make sure that someone who is using a permission to teach is still considered a licensed teacher within all areas of statute.
Representative Erickson, follow up?
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Mr. Luisi, I noticed that in this proposal, you codify teacher preparation programs and roll alternative programs into that. So why is it that you are taking authority to define the scope of alternative programs, including qualifications for participation? That seems to be pretty heavy-handed.
Mr. Liuzzi.
Madam Chair, Representative Erickson, what we did is so there were two separate statutes before. There was the statute for traditional teacher preparation and a statute for alternative teacher preparation. What we have seen in conversations with stakeholders since alternative pathways have been separated from institutes of higher education is that there's the perspective that alternative teacher preparation is lesser, that it does not have to meet the same standards as traditional teacher preparation and thus not as effective. So we went through a 2.5-year rulemaking process to make sure that the standards would align, that all teacher preparation providers, whether alternative or traditional or non-conventional, would all have to meet the same standards. So we took the exact language that was in the alternative teacher preparation statute and just combined it all together to make sure that it was very clear both now in statute and in rule that all types of teacher preparation are meeting the same standards. They just do it in different ways, that one is not lesser than another.
Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, Mr. Luigi, I don't think that's a good move. I think that's a power move. But we'll debate that more extensively on the House floor, I'm sure. I do wonder about whether or not you survey new teachers to find out to what extent they're actually using the standards of effective practice in the classroom. Because every time I talk to new teachers, those who are in their first, second, or third years, and I ask them specifically, because I was on the Board of Teaching when we enacted standards of effectiveness, what standards have meant to them. And something they don't know. And teachers are decision makers. Teachers make decisions probably 100 times during a lesson. You can't tell me that they're thinking about the standards of effective practice. They're thinking about what they have learned now that they're in the classroom. Because actually, teacher preparation doesn't prepare you for the classroom. It fills you with a lot of stuff, and I hope mostly with content and pedagogy strategies. But most of all, teachers learn by being in the classroom to experience what it is like to have a myriad of different levels of learning needs in front of them or with them, and they have to address all those different needs. So to play up the standards of effectiveness as being the ultimate goal, like for an alternative program, when I think there are ways to provide the training for teachers so that it's a common sense approach is much better. And I'd like Mr. Crossan maybe to comment on what's happened in that regard. Madam Chair, if you would be willing to let me yield to Josh Crossan.
Representative Erickson, I will let you do that. However, I'm going to let Representative Frazier jump in. He's had his hand up and it looks like he's wanted to kind of comment on this conversation. Representative Frazier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate all of this feedback, but I will say I'm baffled by this. After this very detailed, fact-driven testimony from the executive director and the director, it's like it never happened. And also, it feels like we're asking that we're going to eliminate Tier 1 and Tier 2, that we've identified as absolute pathways that have been helpful with providing access to more teachers of color into the classroom. I'll say this. I've been on the administrative side of this. I worked in the school district for 8 years, working hard with HR, trying to get more teachers of color into the classroom. The portfolio process was a mystery. The teacher licensure process, because you could only get them in if they had a teacher license. We lost tons of highly qualified folks from other states with vast experience to that. This tier licensure process, it does allow people in. That's why we're not asking that we eliminate the openings in Tier 1 and Tier 2. I just wanted to make that point because I feel like everything that was said prior to that has been lost with this adamant argument against. And if we're really about maintaining and keeping teachers of color in the classroom, I just think we have to be really clear about that and focus on that and not make up phantom arguments to fight back against it. Because I'm really questioning who we are really trying to have access to in these classrooms. Is it really quality teachers, effective teachers, and teachers of color? Or is it for a particular industry that want to make sure they maintain a pool that they can keep perpetually, indefinitely in Tier 1 without supports and without training that will make them effective for our kids that need it the most? That is very important to me.
Thank you, Representative Frazier. Representative Erickson, do you want to restate your question for Mr. Crossan briefly?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted Mr. Crossan to comment on the merging of teacher prep, the traditional teacher prep, and the alternative programs. And that's codified as one piece in this bill.
Very good.
Right.
Mr. Crossan.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair and Representative. That's a great question. I think currently the alternative preparation statutes are relatively new. We only have a handful of alternative preparation providers, Lake Country Service Cooperative, Learning Disability Association, et cetera, that have entered into the space in Minnesota. And I think changing policy, merging these policies puts an extra layer of complexity into how to become an alternative preparation provider as we're trying to currently understand the landscape. I think doing this with those preparation providers, with the experts in the field, would be a lot more streamlined. And I think that the current providers that I mentioned earlier just say that this is not necessary, it's not needed, and it makes it more difficult for people to enter the field.
Very good. Representative Frazier, it looks like you have a response.
No, this is not a response to that, but I did want to clarify some stats that were shared earlier, just in regards to the percentage of teachers of color that are in the Tier 1.
Madam Chair, I think I had the floor.
I'm sorry, Representative Erickson. I thought you said you just were waiting for his comment. I misunderstood you to be done. We do have a couple other testifiers. If you could be brief, that would be appreciated.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have one last question for Executive Director Luigi. the fee increases, how much revenue is that going to generate for Pelsby, and why the fee increases now? We're at a critical juncture in our schools, having spent one whole year away from the classroom for the most part. And I think teachers are going to just be overwhelmed, and probably already are as they've returned to the classroom. So why are we putting this burden on them at this point? And how much revenue will this raise?
Mr. Liuzzi.
Madam Chair, Representative Erickson, this will raise absolutely no additional revenue for Pelsby, which was your initial question. For the state, for the general fund, we believe it'll raise an additional $800,000. Pelsby's budget currently is around $2.7 million, and yet we only bring in through licensure fees about $1.8 million. So this increase in the fee is just to align what the legislature already allocates for Pelsby and to close that gap, because right now we're subsidizing the teacher licensure process. This in no way benefits Pelsby. We have just been looking at this for many years, and in fact, Representative Dabney asked a couple of years ago if we would consider moving it not funded out of the general fund, but funded out of our fees. So if Pelsby was switch to fund out of our fees, then we would need to increase that fee. But that is the only reason for the change. It hasn't changed in 15 years and would not impact Pelsby's budget at all.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Liuzzi.
How do you pay for the rulemaking?
On to Representative Joachim to allow time for other members. Representative Erickson, I will come back to you if there is time. Representative Joachim.
Thank you, thank you, Chair Sandstead. Really just wanted to say I have not gone through a teacher prep program. I have 6 teachers in our family, and I know some folks on here have been teachers as well, and I thank you for your years of service. But I know a lot of folks have not been in a teacher prep program for a while either. We do have a brand new teacher in our family, and he has been through a teacher prep program recently. So I really lean on him when I ask him how it went and what needs to be done. And I kind of take a little bit of offense that our teacher prep programs don't prepare our teachers for the classroom. I think they do, and I hope they do. I hope we're not relying on just on-the-job training. I think on-the-job training and teacher time in the classroom go hand in hand. So I just want to throw that out there because I heard that comment, and I wouldn't want to just toss our teachers into the classroom. That would not be good for our students. I just also want to thank Representative Frazier for bringing forward this bill and the work that Pelsby has done over the years to try to streamline the portfolio process, to work on it and make sure it's easier for folks to come in from out of state to get a license here, and that how you have elevated with this bill our alternative teaching programs that have done so much good work in having that other pathway and elevating them to the same status as the traditional ones. I think putting them on the same footing is a very good idea and will help everyone. And when I look back at other things we've done with boards and allowing them to do their work and to fund them to do their work, we always do go back and tweak things as we move along. Pelsby has been in place now for a while, and you have to listen when boards and teachers and other folks are coming forward and saying, hey, you know what, this isn't working as well. Could we tweak here? Could we tweak there? And I know Pelsby's done a very good job working with the stakeholders to look at those answers. And I hope also, too, for the teachers out there that are concerned about changes, that you take Pelsby up on calling them and asking them, what can I do to stay in the classroom? Because they do a very good job at trying to find all those pathways and all those different ways to help mentor people. And that's a big thing about this bill is we want our districts also to mentor folks when they're in the classroom. That is about what we're going to be able to do. Excuse me, haven't had enough coffee today. That is what we're going to be able to do to keep and retain teachers in our classroom, because that's our biggest struggle right now is when you have teachers leaving after 2 to 3 years because they don't feel supported and they don't feel like they're getting the education they need from that on-the-job training, there's something wrong and we have to look at it. So thank you, Representative Frazier, for bringing forward this bill.
Thank you, Representative Joachim. Representative Frazier, if it's okay, I'm going to let you do closing comments as we wrap up your bill, but we're going to go to Representative Kresha to give him time to wrap up. Representative Kresha.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll make sure my camera comes on. And first I'll acknowledge, Madam Chair, I can tell you've worked very hard to try to make sure everyone gets their feedback in, and that's appreciated, and I want to acknowledge that. So thank you for that. Is Mr. Perez still here?
I do not see him. Oh, yes, I do. Is Mr. Perez, are you still with us?
I am.
Okay.
Representative Grisha.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Mr. Perez, if you can hang on for 1 second. I was going to make my closing comments. I don't support the bill at this time. I think there's a lot that's just been put out there. But one of the things that I've learned is just because people disagree doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And so rather than me having the last word on our side of why we don't approve, Mr. Perez, I would like you to give 1 or 2 statements, if you would, about why we shouldn't support this bill, because I think you're exactly the type of person that I should be hearing from. And you obviously have shown you know as much about this bill as I do. So, Mr. Perez, I'm going to let you close for me.
Mr. Perez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I apologize for not acknowledging as Madam Chair in my testimony. And I appreciate the committee and for everyone's time. And especially to you for giving me this time. I bring up my teacher, Ms. Hobbin, because of her impact on the students, not only in her classroom, but in the building, because she not only affects the ones that she has to teach, but she also carries a passion that is carried on through the entire school body and is actually unappreciated and is not acknowledged as the vital resource that we need. So whenever I think about this bill, I think about the hundreds of Hobbins that affected our lives. And even if this isn't taking them out of their position, if this is making it harder on them and not recognizing their hard work, I don't know what we're doing. We know that our future of our economy is so different, and we had to prepare our students for the next generation of artists, entrepreneurs, and activists. And restricting our teachers from giving them their full on experience and allowing them to just teach and invest in our next generation, I don't believe that's what we want to do. We want to improve from the 5% of teachers of color we have in Minnesota. So I strongly believe that this is not the right path. This is not what we want to do. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Perez. I appreciate that. Closing comments, Representative Frazier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I almost don't want to go because I always encourage our young voices to be the final voices and to be our guiding light. But what I'll say to young Mr. Perez, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And for all of those Ms. Hobbins or Ms. Dobbins, I probably got the name wrong, but reminds me of my Miss Jeter. She was a guiding light for me. She encouraged me. She was my 4th grade teacher. And anytime I am working with folks to create this type of legislation, I am trying to make sure that I can go back, if I could go back in time to young Cedric and tell him that we're going to do the right thing to make sure you have those people that are going to have this impactful time on your life and make sure you can be effective as a student. I just want to quickly note some statistics that I want to clarify. So I think it was said that 20% of teachers of color are on Tier 1 and Tier 2. Reality, 72% of teachers of color are actually on Tier 3 and Tier 4 licensures. There are 20% of the Tier 1 and Tier 2 teachers are teachers of color. But in fact, 72% of teachers of color are on Tier 3s and Tier 4s. Just wanted to clear that up because I think that helps with what we're looking at in terms of the numbers and how we're going to be impactful in harming or not harming folks. And this bill is not set out to harm specifically teachers of color. And in fact, the amendment I offer will capture that current 20% teachers of color to ensure they still have the pathway that currently exists now within statute. So I just want to clear that. And I'll just end with this. One of my priorities is making sure we have teachers that reflect our students in the classroom. 99% of the teachers that taught me K through 12 looked like me, understood my experiences. I am better for it. I am prepared for this world in particular for it. I want to make sure every student in Minnesota has that same opportunity. And I will not stop. And I will keep fighting for that. And I will keep working with all stakeholders to make sure that happens. But that is where the focus is. That's where the focus needs to stay, on effective teachers for our kids, and particularly for our kids that fall within this worst disparity gap in the country, the worst in the country. We still got work to do. Let's keep fighting.
Thank you, Representative Frazier. And with that, Representative Thompson renews his motion to lay House File 1376 as amended over for further consideration and possible inclusion in a future omnibus bill. Members, I do want to thank you, and testifiers, I want to thank you for a very robust and engaging conversation today as we debated this bill. And with that, we stand in recess till approximately 5 p.m. tonight or the call of the chair.